Hello everyone, it's Faye and I am back again, finally, with the second to last episode in LARP character creation from the ground up. This episode will be focused on weaponry and whether you purchase or make it and how to make it, and our next episode is going to be putting it all together. So without further ado, I present to you creating a weapon that creates your character. As you saw in the sketch that I did, I had an idea for a staff that I wanted to build for this character, or that I wanted to have for the character. Now whether or not I built it or bought it was still up in the air, and I looked at a couple of options from my favorite LARP weapon website, which is epicarmory.com, and I looked online at a few others, and nothing was really hitting me, and the prices were just a little bit high for my current budget at the time. Now this was a pretty low budget character. I wasn't able to spend a lot of money on her. So what I ended up doing was building a staff. Now, I did make a couple mistakes, so I'm going to talk to you first about how I built it, and then how I had to alter it to fix it. So, when you're building a boffer weapon, there's a few things you're generally going to need. One of those things is some sort of core. If you can get a hold of it, something like carbon fiber is really good, or I think plexiglass, someone said. You can also use PVC. It's generally better for smaller weapons. So this is a piece of PVC pipe that I got, and I got a 5-foot length of it, and I believe it's about an inch. Don't quote me on that, but you can see it's like a fairly large bit. The problem with this is that at a full 5-foot length, like right now it's fine, it's solid, it's not bendy or anything, but at a 5-foot length it was a little bit whippy. But whatever, I went ahead, so I put this at the center of my piece. The next thing you're generally going to need is foam to pad it with. Anytime you're building kind of like a round weapon, like a staff or a sword or anything that's going to essentially be round when it's finished, pipe foam works really well. So this is actually, I've cut this open to show you, well, like I've cut this open for other reasons, but this is like a small size pipe foam. And then this is like busted up and in bad shape. This is what it looks like when you first buy it. And this is the larger size, the next size up. So you can see the difference there. And so what you're going to end up doing with most round weapons is taking this small size pipe foam and sealing it around your PVC. And you want to make sure that it's really nicely tightly sealed. So like that's, I've cut open the back, but the open end was what I used. And I taped it shut with duct tape to seal it around. And then, to make sure that that nothing hard is going to come through this side, you're going to take your bigger size pipe foam, and you're going to make sure that this is in the enclosed end, facing the opposite direction. And again, you're going to make sure that this is sealed all the way down. So, a completed piece is going to look kind of like this. So once it's all taped up and you've got your foam on it, and then you can duct tape it to customize it or to seal it up and finish it. They always want you to tape it because that way the foam isn't going to break off or break down. So that's what a finished piece is going to look like once it's all taped. If you're just building like a standard boffer, or if your LARP has rules about buffers, so in the case of something like Underworld claws have to be red. In my LARP, claws and fists have to be certain sizes. So, and in some cases certain colors. So, if you're building something like that, something like black duct tape or red duct tape, if they require a red item, is going to be fine. In the case of this one, because I was building a custom weapon and I wanted to be able to customize it color-wise, I looked for duct tapes that were going to match what I wanted to do. So I got this white duct tape to create the birchwood effect that I will show you in a minute, and I got this blue duct tape for detail work. Once I had sealed the PVC inside this, and before I taped it, You always want to make sure that if you are going to have anything that is potentially going to have a thrusting end, so a sword, a staff, arrows always need to have this technique done. You need to seal the PVC end, and then you need to place a layer of hard cell and a layer of soft cell foam. So this is soft cell foam right here. It's like couch foam, so it's like really, really squishy. Hard cell foam is what you would see in like a camper or a yoga mat usually. And there's, all LARPs have requirements about how thick those different layers have to be. In the case of hard cell foam, it's usually 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then soft cell's usually about 2 inches. So you can see there's like a fairly good chunk inside this little bubble. And then when you're sealing it with your tape, you want to make sure that this soft cell at the end is loosely taped. So it still needs to be sealed, but you don't want to pull it and like flatten. Like you don't want to flatten the soft cell down, because then it's not going to have any give. And the give is the important part when building a weapon. And then another recommendation that I found is to punch holes in the end of your soft cell foam little button that you're building, and make sure that just to give it a little extra give. A full tutorial. I've given you kind of the idea of like how everything goes together, but when it comes to building weapons, there's about 5 million tutorials on YouTube, so I just wanted to give you kind of the basics of what you were going to need, and then I wanted to show you what I ended up doing with it. So this is my, I'm probably going to have to do this like slowly moving it through the camera time. This is my staff. And you can see that the one end is a considerable deal shorter than the other end. Now the reason for this is that the first time I took it to LARP, the ends were equal. And that is where this came from. And what happened was it passed safety, but I was only allowed to use it for that game until I made alterations. So I cut this end off of here, shortened up the end, and retaped the bottom. What that did was it took out the whippiness that had caused it to not pass safety. And it now does pass safety. It's a little bit shorter. It's not nearly as impressive because it was almost 6 feet tall when all was said and done. But it was about, well, 5.5, 6 feet tall. And it was very impressive to look at, but it wasn't safe. And the safety is very important. So some of the details that I added to this to make it custom and not just a white buffer staff with a skinny end to hold on to. Oh, and I'll show you sort of, so with this, what I did with these two types of foam is that this hand holding spot is only the thin foam. I did not seal this with the large foam because it would have been too bulky to hold, but it's also very clearly where you're supposed to grip and not hit people with. And that was, that allowed it to pass safety. So, again, some of those details that I put in was I used the white duct tape to tape the whole thing up. I actually did, my initial layer is just plain duct tape. I didn't want to waste the white on the base layer because you usually want to put about 2 layers of duct tape to seal it all. Another thing I did was these kind of birch markings that I did just with like a skinny black Sharpie, and then I kind of buffed them with my thumb just to soften them up. A third detail that I did was these lightning bolts. Third? Anyways, another detail I did was these lightning bolts, which represent her power, which is elemental. And, sorry, babies, I just realized I need to be quiet for baby. So, I did the lightning bolts, and then when I was completely finished, I took just like a white cream, well not completely, but like a creamy brown paint, and I buffed it all over with a dry brush and then sealed it in. And that made like just a really nice unique weapon. I also added this bit of fabric for the grip, and I put in the kanji for Sky because that's her best friend's name, and she was in a country that would have used kanji as a writing language. So this is how I finished my custom weapon for my LARP character. And I will see you guys hopefully in a week when I show you how I put it all together to make Delilah Lightfoot, the Feline Elemental Sorceress.